I had no idea my life was about to become a living nightmare, or a strange kind of adventure. It all started with a dare. Not some casual, let's see who can eat the most pizza kind of dare. No, this was serious, humiliating, soul-crushing in the most public way possible. My best friend Amber leaned across the table at lunch, her eyes sparkling with mischief and authority. "Okay, listen," she said, a sly grin spreading across her face. "I dare you to be the school cheerleader. For a whole week." I choked on my drink. "Excuse me." My voice, normally confident, cracked mid-word. Heads turned. I wanted to disappear into the floor. She didn't miss a beat. "I mean it. Skirt, pom-poms, the whole routine. You're going to cheer at every practice, every game, every assembly. And no excuses." I laughed nervously. "Amber, you can't be serious." She leaned closer. "Oh, I am serious. And if you back out, everyone will know you chickened out." My stomach sank. Humiliation didn't even begin to cover it. But before I could protest further, she added with a glint in her eye, "And don't worry. I'll make sure you look the part." That's when I realized, this wasn't just a dare. She had already planned it. Skirts, makeup, heels, everything. I tried to protest, but my voice failed me. The combination of embarrassment and fear was suffocating. My friends laughed, some encouraging, some cruel, but Amber's grin didn't waver. "You'll thank me later," she teased. "Maybe." I left lunch that day feeling like my life had been hijacked. The idea of walking into the gym, in a cheerleader outfit, surrounded by everyone I knew. It made my knees weak and my heart hammer like a drum. When I got home, my worst fears were confirmed. Amber had already delivered a small box to my door. Inside, a perfectly folded cheerleader uniform, matching shoes, and instructions. A note scribbled in her looping handwriting read, "Wear this. Learn the routine. Survive the week. Or don't. Your choice, but everyone will see." I stared at the uniform. Silk soft skirt, fitted top with bold letters across the chest. Pom-poms shimmering like they were mocking me. I could almost hear the imaginary laughter of every student at school imagining me in it. And yet, there was a strange pull. Something about the outfit, the challenge, even the humiliation, made my pulse quicken. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop staring at it. I spent hours in my room, pacing, trying to figure out how to avoid this nightmare. But every plan collapsed under the weight of the truth. Amber was not joking. Everyone knew about the dare. And if I refused, well, public humiliation awaited. The first time I tried the uniform on, I nearly fell over. The skirt was shorter than I expected. The top clung to my body in ways I hadn't anticipated. I caught a glimpse in the mirror and froze. My reflection looked different. My posture felt wrong. My voice, when I muttered a protest, sounded higher, softer, almost girlish. The realization hit me like a punch. This wasn't just about wearing a uniform. It was about being seen. Every gesture, every movement, every awkward step would be visible. And there was no hiding. No retreat. And that's when the challenge became real. Amber handed me a video link. It was a compilation of the routines I was supposed to learn. She leaned against my doorframe, eyes gleaming. "You have tonight," she said. "Learn it. Memorize it. You will be ready tomorrow." I sank onto my bed, staring at the screen. The girls in the video moved effortlessly, perfectly synchronized, all smiles and energy. And me? I was supposed to replicate this, and look confident doing it. My hands shook as I picked up the pom-poms. They felt heavy, alien. I raised them experimentally, trying a shaky cheer motion. "Go team." The words sounded ridiculous. The movement looked ridiculous. And yet, I couldn't stop. My reflection caught my eye, and I realized I was practicing, alone, in my room, for hours, repeating moves, correcting posture, whispering cheers, and somehow, beginning to get the hang of it. By the end of the night, my body ached, my arms burned, my cheeks were red from repeated embarrassment. And yet, I felt a flicker of something new. Confidence? Pride? Or maybe it was the adrenaline of being forced into a persona I didn't understand, a persona that felt both wrong and dangerously compelling. Amber's voice echoed in my memory. You'll thank me later, maybe. I wasn't sure if I would. But I knew one thing, tomorrow, the world would see me. And there was no turning back. The second day of the challenge hit me like a freight train. I had practiced all night, every cheer, every move, every step. My arms ached from raising the pom-poms over and over, my legs burned from repeated jumps, and my lips were sore from smiling at my reflection so many times it almost didn't feel real. Yet when I walked into the school gym, uniform perfectly in place, my confidence crumbled instantly. The lights felt blinding. The hardwood floor gleamed beneath my shoes, reflecting a version of me I didn't recognize. My classmates were everywhere, whispering, nudging each other, some holding back laughter, others wide-eyed in curiosity. My heart hammered in my chest, threatening to escape, while my legs felt like jelly. Amber, of course, was already there, standing at the edge of the gym like a commander surveying her troops. She smirked when she saw me. You look ready, she said, voice dripping with amusement. Or at least you look like you'll survive. I forced a smile. My cheeks burned hotter than the gym lights. The team of actual cheerleaders glanced at me, some with surprise, some with barely concealed judgment. New kid. One of them whispered, loud enough for me to hear. Yes, that's me, I said, voice higher than I expected, trembling. And just like that, the first practice began. The routine was brutal. Every jump, kick, turn, and motion had to be synchronized perfectly. Every step I miscalculated, every stumble I made, drew invisible yet palpable attention. My face heated with embarrassment each time someone noticed, and I had to bite my lip to stop myself from saying something ridiculous. Pom-poms shook in my hands as I tried to match the rhythm. I was slower, stiffer, more awkward than anyone else, but I couldn't stop. Amber's gaze burned into me with every mistake, her smirk a mix of teasing and command. Faster. Smile. Look like you mean it. She barked, and my body obeyed, even when my mind screamed. The humiliation was intense, but strangely addictive. During a water break, one of the cheerleaders came over, holding her own set of pom-poms. Hey, don't worry, she said softly. It's weird at first, but you'll get it. Just pretend like you belong. Her words were small, but they carried weight. I nodded, trying to absorb the advice, trying to steady my shaking hands. Even as my embarrassment threatened to swallow me, a spark of determination ignited. I would survive this week. Somehow. By the end of the first full practice, I was drenched in sweat, muscles trembling, hair sticking to my face. My uniform was soaked, the skirt clinging uncomfortably, but I had learned one thing, I could do it. That evening, I practiced in my room again, running through the routine step by step, perfecting arm angles, learning to make my steps look fluid, practicing smiles until they no longer felt forced. Every repetition strengthened me, not just physically, but mentally. I could feel a shift inside me, fear slowly transforming into focus, embarrassment morphing into determination. School hallways became a minefield. Everyone seemed to notice. Every glance, every whisper, every smirk felt amplified. Some students whispered behind my back, "Did you see him? He's trying." Others stared openly, curiosity written across their faces. Even classes weren't safe. Sitting at my desk, uniform partially hidden under a jacket, I could feel their eyes tracking me. Every movement, a flick of hair, a stretch of legs, a quiet sigh, felt magnified. I learned quickly to move carefully, balancing grace and caution. Amber's influence continued to guide me. She didn't just teach me routines, she taught me posture, expression, and subtlety. It's not enough to follow the moves, she said one evening as we practiced in the gym alone. You need to look like you belong, like this is your world now. And bit by bit, I began to feel it. Not completely, not yet, but something inside me shifted. I could sense the way my body responded to the routines, the way my voice softened naturally when giving cheers, the way my gestures started flowing rather than jerking. By the middle of the week, small victories started to accumulate. I could finish a cheer without tripping over my own feet. I could coordinate jumps with the team, even if slightly behind. I learned to maintain a smile, even when my heart raced from fear. Social interactions were another challenge entirely. The more I moved in public, the more the world noticed. Students would whisper, sometimes laugh, sometimes compliment, and each interaction sent my emotions into overdrive. Embarrassment, thrill, anxiety, pride, they all collided, leaving me dizzy and exhilarated. One afternoon, a group of students crowded around as I practiced in the gym. They weren't on the cheer team, just curious onlookers. I froze for a moment, but then remembered Amber's words, "Own it. Make it yours." I forced a smile, lifted my pom-poms, and executed the routine with precision I didn't think I had. The cheers, mocking or genuine, I couldn't tell, spurred me on. By the end, I was breathing heavily, hair damp with sweat, cheeks burning, but I had done it. I had performed in front of them and survived. Each day brought new challenges. Pep rallies, gym classes, passing comments in hallways, and even the cafeteria where whispers followed me. Every interaction was a test of nerves and courage, and every success, no matter how small, built me up. I began to sense a rhythm to it all, a flow between fear and performance, embarrassment and mastery. By the end of the week, I had transformed. Not completely, there were still moments when my knees shook, when my voice faltered, when embarrassment threatened to swallow me, but I had survived the gauntlet. I could move with a semblance of grace, smile convincingly, and even enjoy the thrill of being seen. The week ended not with applause, but with quiet acknowledgement. Amber smiled knowingly. "See? You made it. And you didn't hate it as much as you thought you would." I didn't answer immediately. I didn't know how to. She was right in a way I couldn't admit. There had been moments I had liked it. Not the humiliation, not the whispers, not the staring, but the power of performing, of being noticed, of navigating this impossible week and coming out alive. That week had broken me, shaped me, taught me, and somewhere deep inside, sparked a dangerous curiosity. Because I had survived. And now I wanted to see how far I could go. The house was quiet. Silent. A heavy, expectant kind of quiet that seemed to press against my skin. After the chaos of the week, the stares, the whispers, the relentless attention, this quiet was almost intoxicating. I closed the door behind me, letting it click shut with a finality that made my heartbeat spike. Alone. Finally alone. I looked down at the uniform in my hands, the cheer skirt and top that had dominated my week. It wasn't just clothing anymore, it was a symbol. A reminder of what I had endured, of what I had survived. My fingers traced the edges of the fabric, and I realized I didn't just want to survive anymore. I wanted to understand it. Me. I carefully hung the uniform back on the rack and pulled open my dresser drawer. Inside were pieces she had left for me during this week, the subtle accessories, the small bottles, the tools of transformation. Lip gloss, blush, mascara, tiny hair ties, and more. Every item seemed to hum with potential, as if waiting for me to discover its secret. I sat cross-legged on the floor, pulling out a small mirror. My reflection stared back at me, the same face I had seen during the week, but now softened, more intimate, more personal. Alone, I could examine it without judgment. The lip gloss came first. I hesitated, running my thumb over the smooth tube. Then, with slow precision, I applied it. The sensation was electric, subtle yet startling. My lips shimmered under the soft light, catching my attention in a way that was both thrilling and alarming. I leaned closer, studying my reflection. My eyes traced the line of my jaw, the curve of my neck, the subtle arch of my eyebrows. There was something different. Not just physical. Something inside me had shifted. My mind buzzed with curiosity and a faint, unfamiliar thrill. Blush came next. Soft strokes along my cheekbones, following the contours of my face. I watched as color transformed me, not radically, but delicately. Each brushstroke made me feel alive in a new way. Vulnerable, yes, but also daring. Mascara and eyeliner followed, each stroke refining my gaze, making my eyes appear larger, more expressive, more deliberate. I found myself tilting my head, experimenting with angles, testing the effect of light and shadow on my reflection. Every motion felt like a secret language I was learning to speak fluently. Then came my hair. I had been hesitant at first, afraid to touch it, afraid to shape it in a way that felt so foreign. But my fingers worked deftly, brushing strands into soft waves, pinning them with tiny clips. I watched as each adjustment changed the entire expression of my face, the silhouette of my shoulders, the energy that radiated from me. I tried on a soft cardigan from the pile she had left. It draped over me like a shield, yet also accentuated my new shape. Every movement became a performance. Every gesture, every tilt, every glance was a tiny rehearsal in a private theater. And yet, even in solitude, the stakes felt high. I wasn't just dressing up, I was exploring a version of myself I had never allowed to exist. At one point, I caught myself laughing quietly, startled by the sound. It wasn't nervous laughter. It wasn't embarrassed. It was playful, light, almost mischievous. The sound of it made my stomach flutter, and I realized that something about this exploration, about performing for no one but myself, was intoxicating. I experimented with voice next. Whispered words, phrases, small sentences, testing the range, the pitch, the cadence. My voice wavered at first, high and uncertain, but gradually it found its rhythm. Each tone, each syllable, made me feel more in control, more present. Pom-poms from the cheer routine sat in the corner. I picked them up hesitantly, lifting and twirling them in the quiet room. The familiar motions from the week now felt different. Less forced. More natural. Each jump, each swing, each practice cheer was a meditation, a ritual. The movement was no longer about survival. It was about mastery, exploration, and self-expression. Hours passed without me noticing. I tried outfits, switched hairstyles, practiced my posture, rehearsed routines, experimented with expressions in the mirror. Every failure, every stumble, every awkward pose felt like a lesson. Every small victory sent a thrill through me. Somewhere deep inside, I began to understand something terrifying and exhilarating. This wasn't just about the cheerleader challenge. This was about me. About discovering parts of myself I had ignored or suppressed. Parts that were curious, daring, playful, even seductive. And then, in the quietest moment, I caught my reflection staring back with a faint smile. It wasn't forced. It wasn't hesitant. It was knowing. A recognition. I whispered softly, almost to myself, "I'm beginning to like her." And even as the words left my lips, I felt a shiver of anticipation, excitement, and fear. Because this exploration, this private, intimate transformation, was only the beginning. The real challenge, I realized, wasn't surviving the week as a cheerleader. It was surviving the awakening of a self I had never met before. And somehow, I knew that I didn't want to stop. The final day of the cheerleader challenge arrived, and it was nothing like I had imagined. I had survived practices, stares, whispers, and humiliation, but nothing had prepared me for the ultimate test, the school's big assembly, with the entire student body watching. Every cheer, every jump, every word would be on display. There would be no hiding. No mistakes unnoticed. No excuses. Amber's text had arrived that morning. Short, precise, threatening. The gym. 2 p.m. Be ready. No hesitation. Everyone's watching. I stood in front of my mirror, the uniform pressed perfectly against my body, pom-poms in hand, heart hammering in my chest. Every reflection told me the same thing: there was no turning back. I had to perform. And yet, part of me screamed to run, to hide, to never show my face again. When I walked into the gym, the roar of the crowd hit me like a physical blow. The stands were packed. Every eye, every phone, every camera seemed to lock on me. My body froze for a split second, legs threatening to buckle beneath the weight of all that attention. Amber appeared beside me, her expression unreadable, commanding. She leaned close, her breath brushing my ear. "Remember everything," she whispered. "Every step. Every cheer. Every smile. And own it. This is your moment." Her words, though subtle, carried the weight of authority. I nodded, swallowing hard, hands gripping the pom-poms until my knuckles whitened. The music started. The routine I had practiced countless times in private, countless hours in my room, suddenly became the center of a massive, judgmental stage. I moved. Step by step, cheer by cheer, my body responded. My arms lifted, my hips swayed, my voice projected, even though it trembled at first. Whispers and laughter rippled through the crowd. Some students cheered, some giggled, some stared in disbelief. And yet, I kept going. I couldn't stop. Each motion, each cheer, became a battle between shame and pride, fear and exhilaration. Halfway through the routine, my skirt shifted. I felt the breeze, felt every pair of eyes on me, felt the impossible weight of public scrutiny. My cheeks burned hotter than ever. I wanted to vanish. I wanted to collapse. But then, something inside me snapped. I remembered all the hours I had spent in my room, practicing in front of mirrors, experimenting with makeup, perfecting my posture, learning to embrace this version of myself. Every stumble, every failure, every whispered joke from classmates, every single moment, had led me here. I straightened, lifted my chin, focused on the rhythm of the music, the sway of my arms, the flow of my steps. And slowly, the fear began to fade. By the final cheer, I wasn't just performing. I was commanding attention. I was moving with purpose. Every jump, every twirl, every smile carried confidence I hadn't known I possessed. The whispers turned to cheers, the laughter faded, replaced by awe and approval. Amber clapped from the sidelines, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Yes. That's it. Own it. I finished the routine, breath ragged, heart pounding, body drenched in sweat, but standing tall. The crowd erupted, not just polite applause, but genuine excitement, cheering, clapping, phones raised to capture the moment. And in that instant, I realized something terrifying and liberating. I had survived. Not just the challenge, not just the embarrassment, but the ultimate test of exposure and vulnerability. I had been forced into this persona, forced into this uniform, forced to face the world in a way that terrified me. And yet, I had embraced it. Not fully, not completely, but enough to feel pride. Enough to feel power. Enough to see that this version of me, this brave, exposed, unstoppable version, was real. Amber came to me after the performance, tugging gently at my arm. You did it. Not just because you had to, but because you wanted to. That's the real challenge. I could only nod, my voice catching as I whispered, I didn't think I could. She smiled knowingly. And that's exactly why this worked. You learned who you really are. And maybe, you even like her a little. I felt a shiver run down my spine. The cheerleader uniform, the pom-poms, the routines, the glances, the whispers, they had all changed me. Not just externally, but inside. I had been forced into a week of embarrassment and challenge, but I had emerged stronger, more aware, more confident in ways I hadn't imagined. As the crowd dispersed, I walked off the gym floor, sweat dripping, heart still racing, but with my head held high. For the first time that week, I felt something I hadn't expected, pride. Not just relief, not just survival, but genuine pride in who I had become. And as Amber's eyes met mine one last time, I understood the truth. This week hadn't just been a challenge. It had been a revelation. I had been forced to become someone else. And in the process, I had discovered myself.